Hey, these notes are for percent bars, and we're going to get started real quick here. So we're going to start with the first percent bar on the left side of your notes. So you can see there's 2% bars, and one of them is on the left. So we're going to start with this one right here. So this one right here has percent all the way from 0 to 5 to 10, 25, 50, 65, 80, and 100. So if we have none of it, then it would be 0%, which coincides with having $0, right? So if you have all of it, then you would have a certain amount of dollars right here. That's what kind of we're trying to figure out. How much is all the money going to be? And then how much is just 50% going to be? And also how much is 10%? How much is 5% of the total amount? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find this amount right here at the very bottom. And the way we do that is we find the information that is given to us. So 25% is, according to this, $16. So if we have that relationship or that information, we can see if there's a relationship with the number that we're going to, which is 100. So 25 and 100, do they have a relationship between each other? And the answer would be yes, they do. 25 multiplied times 4 would give you 100, right? So if we do the same thing over here on this side, 16 multiplied by 4 would give you the answer here, 100, which is 64. So now we know that all the money, 100% of the money, is $64. Okay? Now, since we know 100%, now we can figure out 50%, because 50% is just going to be taking 100 and dividing it by 2. So if I take $64 and I do the same thing, I divide it by 2, half of 64 is going to give me $32. So now I know that 50% is $32. So all we're doing is just finding those relationships that connect each other to give us the missing parts. So now what I have here is 10%. So 10% is the one that I'm also going to use my 100 for, because 100 is a really easy way to figure out to make it a 10%. So 100 going up to 10% would just be divided by 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10, right? So if I'm going to take the $64 and do the same thing to end up with that amount for 10%, I'm going to take 64 and divide it by 10. That's going to give me $6 and 4/10 of a dollar, which really is $6.40 if you fill in a missing zero. Okay, so that's how we find the missing parts. Now you see that we have a 10% and we're missing a 5%. So we can do something with that. We can take 10 and make it a 5 by dividing 10 by 2. So if we can find that relationship there, we can do the same thing right here. So we're going to divide this by 2. So $6.40 divided by 2. Well, when you divide something by 2, you're cutting it in half. So half of 6 is just $3, and half of 40 cents is just 20 cents. So it's $3.20. So now we know 0% is $0, 5% is $3.25, 10% is $6.40. We already knew 25% was $16. That's what we started with. We know 50% is 32. We still need 65 and we need 80. So the one that I'm going to use now that I know 10%, I know 10% can be made into 80 really fast. But just taking that number, see, I used blue already, I used purple, then I used red, and then I used green. So I haven't used black or red, orange. So I'm going to use black. So I'm going to take this 10% and I'm going to turn it into an 80. I'm going to cut these right here. I'm going to go right there. So 10% can be made into 80 by just multiplying it times 8. So if I do that on that side, then I can also do the same thing on this side. This $6.40. I'm going to bring it here and I'm going to multiply it by the same number, which is times 8. So I'm going to put it right here about the same amount times 8, so that I can go ahead and get this number. So $6.40 times 8 is what's going to be my answer for that. So 8 times 0 is 0, 8 times 4 is 32, carry the 3, 8 times 6 is 48, plus 3 is 51. And if we do our bubbles, that's a 2 there, that's a 0. So we need a total of 2 decimal places in our answer. So $51.20 would be the 80% that goes there. Okay, so finally we have 65%, and 65% ends in a 5. So I know that one is going to have a direct relationship with the one that ends in a 5 as well, which happens to be the 5%. So to find that one, that's going to be the more, I guess, elaborate one, because I have to make 5 and turn it into 65. And the way I do that is, if I don't know the direct relationship, then I can take 65, like right here, and divide it by 5 to see what that relationship is going to be. So 65 divided by 5, 5 goes into 6 one time, that's 5, remainder 1. Bring down the 5, so 5 goes into 15 3 times, that's 15. So now I know the relationship is going to be 13. The way I make a 5 into a 65 is if I multiply by 13. So you guessed it, I'm going to have to take this $3.20 and multiply it by 13. So I'm going to take that times 13. So you can see it kind of looks like a lot of little snakes, or a lot of little, I don't know, pathways, little arrows, so because that's all it is, it's just connections from one to the other. So $3.20 multiplied by 13 is going to be my final problem for this percent bar. 320 times 13. 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. Placeholder, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3. When I add them together, I get 0, 6, 11, carry the 1, 1 plus 3 is 4. Bubble strategy, that's a 2, that's a 0, so this is going to be a 2, so that means my decimal needs to be moved right there. So it's $41.60 for 65%, which is what I'm going to put right there, $41.60. Okay, and that completes all of my parts of my percent bar on the left. We're going to do the other one over here on the right just for more practice together, so you can see how it's done. Again, you can catch all those connections, and then we're going to start doing, you're going to do the rest by yourself. So the next percent bar, the information that is given to us is this one right here. 280 is 80%, and this could be dollars again, or it could be anything you want, centimeters, or whatever units you're talking about, marbles, cookies, students, cats, dogs, whatever you want to talk about. So it doesn't specify the units. But I know I can turn 80% into 10% really easy by just dividing 80 by 8. So if I take 280 and I divide it by 8, 280 divided by 8. Let's see, 8 cannot go into 2, but 8 goes into 28. I believe it's 3 times, because 3 times 8 is 24. And you get a remainder of 4. Bring down the 0. 8 goes into 45 times, because 8 times 5 is 40. So I know 280 divided by 8 gives me 35. So this number here is going to be the number 35. So once you find this relationship with 10%, the rest of them ends in a 0, like 40, 50, 60, and 100. All of those can be found really easily because they all end in a 0. So that's why I kind of did that one first. So now from 10%, I'm going to jump to my 5%. And the way I'm going to jump with my 5% is going to be by going from 10 to 5, by dividing it by 2. So this $35, I'm going to do the same thing, divided by 2. And I said dollars, but I really meant whatever, right? So 35 divided by 2, half of 35. I know half of 30 is 15, right? So then a half of 5 is $2.50. So it's going to be 15 plus $2.50, which is going to give us $17.50. But since we're talking about, we're not talking specifically about money, it can just be 17.5. Okay, so that's half of it. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other ones real quick here. So I'm going to use my red now to go from a 10% straight to my 40. So 35 will give me that number. So 10 multiplied by 4 gives me 40. So 35 multiplied by 4, let's see, 4 times 5 is 20. I'm going to carry a 2. 4 times 3 is 12. plus 2 is 14. So it would be 140. And that makes sense because 40% is half of 80. And that means that if I take 40 times 2, that's 80. So 140 times 2 is 280. So that makes sense. Now I'm going to take, again, my 10% and make it a 50. Okay? So 10 times 5 would give me 50. So 35 times 5 would give me my answer there. So I'm going to work that out over here. 35 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 3 is 15. Plus 2 is 17. So it's going to be 175. And it should be bigger than 140 because 140 is 40%. So 50%, which is bigger than 40, should be more than this number right here. So now that I have that, now I'm going for 60%. So 60%, again, I'm going to use my 10%, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to say I'm going to multiply by 6. So I'm going to take this 35, and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to multiply it by 6. So 35 now times 6. 6 times 5 is 30, carry the 3. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 more gives me 21. So it gives me 210 for 60%. And then the last one I have to do is my 100%. So you probably guessed it by now that I'm going to take that 10% again, and I'm going to do one last relationship all the way over here to 100%. I know that if I take 10% and I multiply it by 10, I end up with 100. So this 35, I'm going to take it and multiply it by 10. So it's just going to give me 35 with a 0 behind it, which is 350. So that's how you fill out the rest of these. That's how you fill out all of these percent bars with the missing relationships. It kind of looks like spaghetti. Reminds me of spaghetti models, especially like if you see the news and you see the weather channel, you can see sometimes when there's like a hurricane and they're trying to project or they're trying to predict which path the hurricane is going to take. They usually have a model called spaghetti models, and it kind of looks like that because a whole bunch of arrows going different ways. So that's what that reminds me of. But that's where you're going to use this strategy to do the back of this worksheet, which is the guided practice. So I want you to work on these two problems. I want you to fill them out, and then I want you to come back and check your answers on this video. I'm going to push pause right now. I'm going to give all the answers here, and whenever I do this, all these answers right here, I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to do the other answers here. Okay? So go ahead and take this time, push pause, and let's see if you can do this on your own.